Wonderful to be here again. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to piggyback on what Corinne had to say. It's very powerful. One thing we need to remember is last spring of 2020, childcare centers up and down the state, not just YMCA childcare centers, but many childcare centers were the first to open up their doors to offer emergency childcare for essential workers in the state. And once we were able to fully reopen for the public in June, regulations and capacity restrictions were enforced. So to give you some perspective, here we are nearly 1 year later, and those same capacity and licensing restrictions are in place. Let's think about that. We just heard last week that many of our facilities and restaurants, et cetera, are 75 or 100%. And that's great that things are changing over the course of the year. Childcare regulations have not changed in almost a year. They are the original restrictions. And what these are is barely 50% of our space is being used to care for our kids. And as Corinne noted, this is unsustainable financially for childcare centers. That's why so many are closing and will close. But more importantly, I try to get our economy going back and get our parents back to work. We are almost reaching a point where we're saying no to the families that need our help because we cannot open up more doors for them simply because we are restricting access for a group, a population, an age group that undoubtedly across the United States and across the world is the least affected by this pandemic. So we really need to look hard at why we are making it so difficult to expand age groups in the younger categories for both summer camp and childcare and let these kids get back together again. Our childcare centers can't even have our parents come into them. We can't even open up our doors and give tours to new parents. We can't even bring groups of kids together. They have to be cohorted in groups of 12 or less, and they can't see other kids throughout the course of the day. Some of these restrictions are completely unsustainable, unreasonable, and no other industry or sector in our state has to follow these. I also want to just note that, as far as the hiring crisis, without a doubt, this is the worst I have seen in 25 years. And wise across the state, it's not only for childcare, it's for everything that we do, whether it's aquatics, camp, membership, fitness. But the childcare one is especially difficult because these are the workers that want to come back. And again, we have the opportunity to hire them and incentivize them, but we can't even take their own kids. So for instance, for a childcare worker, if they have their own child, many centers will offer the opportunity for them to bring their own child in. But we're not allowed to do that because, again, we are restricted by our capacity limits and we don't have the room. And that's another incentive that's making it very difficult for the childcare industry to get workers back on the floor.